Hello and welcome to KPFK's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections, where you will hear from various listener candidates. My name is Steve Zeugner. I'm one of the election supervisors working for the National Election Supervisor, and I'll be the moderator for this program. The topics to be discussed are covering key issues facing KPFK and the Pacifica Foundation as a whole, and questions submitted directly by KPFK members will also be at the end. Please note that all viewpoints presented are those of the participants and do not reflect necessarily the position of the Pacifica Foundation or KPFK. The program starts with opening statements followed by a debate covering topics selected from a predefined topic list and ending with questions from listener members. The order of candidates and topics has been selected by using a random sequence generator from random.org. This hour, we are joined by Marisol Cruz, Mark Berlin, Ruth Strauss, and Brooke King. Before starting the debate, each candidate has 1 minute to make an opening statement. Candidates will hear a bell when their time is up. Now for the opening statements, Marisol, if you'd like to start, you have 1 minute.
Hi, my name is Marisol Cruz. I am a mother of 3. 2 of whom serve in the military. I've been a public servant for my whole adult life. I served on the Lennox School Board for about a little bit over a decade, and I continue to coordinate, organize, and activate my community. I love to be of service. It's really fulfilling to see the impact of the deeds of what one does for the betterment of humanity, as little as a little square mile of a community, and the impact that has throughout Los Angeles and hopefully around the world.
Kelly Flores, you have 1 minute.
So I'm Kelly Flores. I'm running for the local station board, for the listener station board for the first time with the Grassroots Community Radio Coalition. And I want to help get KPFK back to the community that it serves and promote programming that reflect the voices of the people, especially communities of color in the struggle. And I want to promote culturally relevant, responsive, and liberatory and global perspectives that address the issues our communities face. We need a better education and more creative space on air to bring our listeners back and to keep us engaged and connected. That is what public radio is for, one that is truly run by the people for the people, one that brings in the most marginalized and oppressed in our communities and that uplifts their voices and the beautiful music, poetry, and art that is being created. KPFK should be the station that holds that space and brings us together. And to me, this station has been a lifeline for decades. I began listening to the Spanish language programming on air in the early 90s. I would have to drive up to certain spots in San Diego where I lived then to get the signal to tune in because it was really relevant. What was being aired was important and it reflected the struggles that I was connected with. And when I moved to LA in the late 90s, the station again indicated to me there were many people who were present in different community spaces that were representing KPFK and inviting folks to be able to speak in the struggle. So I want that to be our radio that we hear again.
Thank you, Kelly Flores.
Mark, if you'd like to go next, we have 1 minute.
Hi, my name's Mark Berlin. I've been a KPFK listener since the station started broadcasting in 1959. My father had the radio on all the time, and I particularly remember the folk music protest songs and union anthems of that time. And they all communicated a shared sense of humanity, that we're all in this together, and we're stronger when we work together. My vision is to bring this kind of message to KPFK listener community and the organization itself where it is badly needed. KPFK is a vital and truly unique resource that does not receive corporate funding. It's one of the few remaining non-corporate entities that does this sort of thing. So it can provide vital information without the for-profit distortion baked into the mainstream media. I've been a Unitarian Universalist for 30 years and served on a number of boards and been involved with several successful fundraisers. I hope to bring the vision I mentioned
Thank you, Mark.
at the beginning of this to the community.
Thank you very much, Mark. Brooke, go to you next. 1 minute for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Brooke King. I am a public school manager and administrator currently, and I serve on the school board as well currently. a lot of the issues that we are dealing with are similar to issues that I know are happening at KPFK. I'm a new listener, and I've had the pleasure of volunteering at the station as well. I think KPFK is incredible, and I'm here to help and protect KPFK. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brooke. Ruth, you have 1 minute for your opening statement.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm Ruth Strauss. I've been a listener supporter of KPFK for 37 years. And I finally have time due to COVID to give back some time. I'm a cardiologist and my hospital is full of COVID. So I am doing telemedicine right now. I first got involved because I heard some real faux FAUX medicine being pushed on the fund drive, and I got alarmed that the station could be sued. So I got on the community advisory board. And then the station was in such financial trouble that I listened for months and then finally decided to join the finance committee. Then I heard about all the rules for getting on committees. So then I joined the governance committee. And finally, I wanted to preserve some of the programs that I liked. So I got on the program committee. So finally, some people said, well, hey, why don't you run for the local board? And so here I am. I love the station. I'm really concerned that we don't have the membership. And I think we're in, as my medical terms, code blue for the station. And we really have to resuscitate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. All right, we will now move on to the debate. The debate format consists of assigning one topic to each candidate as determined by the initial random sequence and allowing that candidate 2 minutes to develop their answer. All other candidates following the order defined by the initial random sequence get 30 seconds each to comment and follow up on that question. This structure iterates through all candidates until everyone has had an opportunity to address one topic at length. Marisol, the first topic is to you. Question is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of KPFK's programming? And should local station board members be involved in determining programming? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I think the strength of KPFK is the listeners themselves. It's very diverse, and what brought me to the station right off of college, I volunteered with Sojourner Youth or Sojourner Truth. We attempted to do a Sojourner Youth at the time, which was very progressive, very out of the box idea. And I think this is a kind of programming that would really benefit the communities, the listeners that tune in at the local level. I think that's something that we need to bring back and or more of. Because people are listening with this whole pandemic situation. People are looking for resources, answers, and a lot of them have the answers within themselves, but a great opportunity within KPFK to create that platform for the community. I think that's something that we could really help our listeners with, creating those platforms for them. Excuse me. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, having technical issues here.
Okay, no problem.
So continuing, I think what we could really bring to the listeners is more of local news, like I said, and creating platforms for people to get involved. And as for the board getting involved, just in the form of supporting whatever the majority of the listeners and also staff. I think it's important for staff to be supported through this whole process, for them to carry out quality programming and quality content.
Great, thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 30 seconds to respond to the same question.
So there's a lot of really good programs on KPFK. I think this divides up in this kind of interesting way where I suspect that there's a few programs that get huge amount of listeners, and then there's a lot of legacy programs that have been on for a long time, and people just don't listen to them that much. and they might be interesting programs, but I think that that's a weakness in that the programming needs to be as reflective as possible about what is of interest to our listening audience in the greater Los Angeles area. And so, okay, is that it?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
Ruth, you have 30 seconds to respond to the same question as well.
Sorry. Can you just repeat the question quickly?
Certainly. The question is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of KPFK's programming, and should the local station board members be involved in determining programming?
Okay, great. So the strengths are that we have some national programming that is just outstanding and our big fundraisers. And then, of course, we know that there's a problem with listenership. And so we want to draw in more programs locally that would bring in people. However, I do think the local station board has to be involved, as well as input from whatever entities can give us listenership, because there's, a move to get more local programming, but we should not get rid of the programs that have traditionally brought in big funding at the expense of getting community programming. So we have to figure out the grid, and that needs to be done by the local station board with input from the programming committees, et cetera. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And Brooke, you have 30 seconds as well.
I'm so glad to speak on this. I've been thinking a lot about this. I'm aware that the station does not have a programming director at this time. I believe that's a huge issue. I do not believe that it's the local station board's job necessarily to select programming or come up with programming. I do think that the local station board should discuss programming, that it would come to the local station board via the general manager, via the program director. I'm here because of the content. I'm here because of the producers on the station, because the programming is so interesting. And
Thank you, Brooke.
oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt. There is someone in the waiting room that's
Yes,
actually
should we just,
done this. Should we let him in and she can come in and we'll just give her a couple minutes at the end and we'll just have to edit her in, I guess.
Sure.
What do you think? Is that okay?
Yeah, that
Okay.
works.
Okay. Sorry, everybody.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, Kelly. Hi. So we've already started. So we'll do your opening statement at the end, if that's okay. Right now we're giving. So basically, Steve is the moderator, and everyone gets one topic to go in depth for 2 minutes, and then all of the other candidates get 30 seconds. So you'll get your topic in depth. We're still at that point, and then we'll take listener questions, and then at the very end, we'll get your opening statement and we'll edit it back at the top again. Does that make sense? Okay.
All right, great. Then we'll continue on. The next topic is for Mark. Mark, your topic is this. It has been challenging to maintain accurate membership lists of listeners and staff members at all stations. What is your understanding of this problem, and how do you propose to solve it? You have 2 minutes. Oh, let me ask you to unmute real quick.
I don't think he's, yeah.
Okay,
there you
go.
Okay, you can hear me now. Okay, great. Yeah, this is kind of typical of some progressive organizations, and certainly some of the Unitarian Universalist congregations that I've been a member of, where what you would think are really routine things just don't get done, and it becomes really annoying. Part of it has to do with the mix of paid staff and volunteers, and sometimes volunteers get leaned on too heavily, but they're volunteers, right? So you can't really get after them too much. So one, I'm in engineering. I do software, various kinds. So one of the things to do is look at some contemporary software that could help with this and make sure that we have resources so that people can be trained on it. It seems like one of the things that should definitely not fall through the cracks, and it should be in the general manager's job description, for example, to make sure that this happens. It certainly merits some discussion with the local station board how to make sure routine things like this are kept in order. Obviously, it's critical. We have to know how many people we have, and if there's also some way of getting some demographics as well, that would be extremely helpful.
Great, thank you, Mark. Ruth, you will have 30 seconds to address the same topic.
Okay, great. So I am clearly not a software guru, but I do know that there are software programs out there that can tell whether a person has received an email or not. So I think that's something that when we're emailing, when you pledge, you give your phone number and your email, and obviously those things, thank you notes with checking that everything is correct can be done via email, text, or telephoning. Obviously we have to have good people taking down the numbers in the first place. Also, we should have on the website something that says, you know, are you a first-time visitor, to register on the website. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Brooke, you have 30 seconds to address this topic.
So I believe this is a management issue. And I believe that the local station board needs to have a functional and positive relationship with the management at the station. It must be cultivated. There must be a good line of communication to work on issues such as this, to make sure that the solutions in place are excellent and productive. So I believe that this is just a matter of cultivating strong management relations with the board and the station management.
Thank you very much, Brooke. Kelly, if you'd like to address this topic, you have 30 seconds.
Can you just repeat the question for me quickly?
Sure. It's that it has been challenging to maintain accurate membership lists of listeners and staff members at all stations. So what is your understanding of this problem, and how do you propose to solve it?
Okay, so since I haven't been, on the board or like in management at KPFK, I've been primarily a listener, activist, and community member. My thinking on this, and having been, managing listservs myself and listener, not just listener, but groups of people, I feel like it's a disorganization. I'm not sure exactly why, because there is adequate, abilities out there now with all the technology that we have online to maintain those. And I think it's a matter of maybe interest and time. Maybe just, if the person who is currently in charge of handling those aspects maybe needs to have others to help as well. My understanding is that we are capable of maintaining good lists, because it is very, very important for us to be able to reach. Thank you.
Hey, Renee, I don't think I
Nobody's
can't hear the
hearing
bell.
it. I'm so sorry. I don't know why it's not loud. I'm trying to. I don't have your great bell.
It's no problem. But yeah, we'll keep moving on.
Maybe I should just use. Okay, what I think I'll do is I might use just something. What could I do?
I don't know, but let's let Marisol address this.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Yeah, having an accurate list is very critical, actually, if you're trying to outreach and engage folks. It's a very basic thing to have. In regards to the staff, it's fostering that relationship between the board and the ones that are paid or not paid. I really don't know the dynamics behind that. I'm coming in with fresh eyes. I am more than willing to learn what has been the situation. But one thing is for sure is supporting staff. If you're really trying to carry out quality content and
Thank you.
programming, you need to support staff.
Thank you, Marisol. All right, we'll move on to the next topic. Ruth, this is your topic. The topic is, please define listener democracy. What is your view on listener democracy? And do you feel this is happening in KPFK and Pacifica? Suggest ways that we can improve listener democracy. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, sorry. Anyway, in terms of listener democracy, I think that that means that there's listener input. I know that there's something about rights of listeners, and I'm not sure I've ever received rights, but if that's something that people should receive, then they should probably receive an email when they become a member or when they donate. I think listener democracy means the ability of them to communicate with people that are at the station. And therefore, I think that chairs of committees should have an email address, or the general manager should be able to be emailed by members so that that those people can communicate. Also, we had a survey done that was done. It was probably a 40-minute survey, and the general manager resigned. That survey was done in January. The general manager resigned in May or whatever, and we never got the results of that. So that is a big problem in terms of listener democracy, finding out what people want, and then tailoring it to that so we can be financially sound. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ruth. Brooke, you have 30 seconds to address this topic.
So I'm here as a candidate due to the listener democracy that you're talking about. As a listener candidate for the local station board, which is part of the bylaws to bring in listener candidates to be on the board, serve on the board, to help the station. And that is part of the listener supported station that is KPFK, which is why it is so cool. So
Thank you, Brooke.
that's, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kelly, you have 30 seconds to address this topic.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think that there should be, an increased participation by membership and the listeners. I like the idea of being able to reach out to listeners by email. I mean, we have their information when they register as, a contributing member to KPFK. And I feel like, programming is really one of those issues that we should be having listening sessions around to find out, what it is that listeners want to hear and participate in. There's been a tremendous shift in what we had in terms of content years past and what we have now. And I don't think there's been much consultation with listeners about it.
Great, thank you. Marisol, you have 30 seconds as well.
Can you please repeat the question?
Sure, it's please define listener democracy. What is your view on listener democracy, and do you feel this is happening at KPFK and Pacifica? And how can
I think,
improve it?
Thank you. I think KPFK could do a better job in regards to hosting events throughout the year to bring people together for meet and greets, really keep people involved and engaged. Again, it goes back to keeping a precise list of those that are members and making sure that people have an input and a voice in the matter.
Great, thank you. And Mark, you also have 30 seconds to wrap this topic up.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we should have maybe some workshops or Zoom sessions that occur periodically. I'm not sure what a good frequency is, but specifically designed to get listener input, where someone can call in, give their thoughts on programming, and then maybe even have a workshop on how programs get created and how the local station board can best support creation of new programs that are responsive to listener needs.
Great, thank you, everybody. We'll move on to the next topic. This is your topic, Brooke. Question is, what are the strengths and weaknesses of the existing fundraising models at KPFK? and Pacifica. Please propose alternative fundraising models or ideas, and what strategy and timeline would you use to implement these alternatives?
Hello. So I don't know that it is necessarily the board member's job to implement exactly fundraising plans necessarily. I'm here, one of my platforms coming into this was the fact that the station is so incredible. There's so much amazing programming, but it's so difficult to access because of the constant on-air fund drives. So I do believe that that's not working well for the fund. And as far as the fundraising plan that's currently in place, I do believe that the local station board needs to work with the national board as well as the station management to create successful fundraising plans. I know that the development directors that have been hired by the station, that whole plan has not worked so successfully, that there could be possibly a partnership that the station could have potentially with fundraisers creating events for the station. I'm a huge advocate for that. I definitely think that we should bring in volunteers to do that. Again, though, I do think this is more of a general manager's job, and that the local station board can help support and work with the national board to make sure that the fundraising effort is in line with the values of the station.
Great, thank you, Brooke. Kelly, you have 30 seconds to address this issue as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we have, our grassroots slate that's running really has a proposal about bringing in more listener dues, by bringing in more listener, bettering the program and having like it more accessible to people so that you don't have just a $25 a year contribution, as mandatory, even though that's very low, but even having it more accessible to letting people contribute what they'd like to contribute. And just, being part of the finance committee that is part of the board is really important, because what we've been hearing is, these member drives where certain items are pushed, but if your programming isn't being listened to by people, they're not getting what they want. They're not going to contribute that way. And I know that we've had a dip in, contributions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marisol, you have 30 seconds as well.
Yeah, just like that was mentioned in regards to the slate, the grassroots Community Radio Coalition, we do have some very progressive and great ideas to bring about membership dues, to just give as you go. And I think everyone could chip in, and we could really bring up those numbers to put out that content that needs to be heard and listened to and educate the minds throughout the nation in these trying times.
Thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 30 seconds.
So it's typically a case that there are a small number of donors that actually contribute 80 or 90% of the funding. And there should be, I don't know if this is happening now, but you want to have periodic appreciation events for those people and get their inputs on the station, because they're providing the most of the funding. I'm 100% sure that's true at KPFK, that there's a small number of people that fund that. The other thing is we should be very quantitative and publicly broadcast what exactly are the station costs and what the consequences are of different funding levels to the station as a whole in terms of the operating budget.
Thank you, Mark. And Ruth, you have 30 seconds as well.
Okay, well, one thing that is really irksome to me is that during the fundraising, the premiums are $100 to $250, and I just think that's that cuts out a lot of people. So there should be more equity in premiums that go down to $25, where you get a bumper sticker, which gives the person a little token and also advertises the station. I think we could have, I don't know how this is done, and it would have to be through Terry Guy or whatever, but like a KPFK store where people can buy mugs throughout the year, not just during fund drive.
Thank you,
Is
Ruth.
that my time?
Yes. Are you having a hard time hearing the bell?
Still having a hard time, but
I didn't hear the bell on that one, but I heard you.
no problem.
Okay.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our final topic. Kelly, this will be your topic. And the topic is, when members make donations, they are often unaware of their membership rights. Do you think this is a problem, and what do you propose to remedy that? Sorry, you have 2 minutes, Kelly.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Sure. When members make donations, they're often unaware of their membership rights. Do you think this is a problem, and what do you propose to remedy it?
I think it's an issue of engagement, and if we really want, the station to be sustained by listeners, then we need to make sure that the listeners get that information up front. So, when we develop our outreach base, via email and any other like social media and phone numbers, we should be able to reach out to people the way that they want to be reached out to and give them that information and show them, what our bylaws are, and explicitly, put out there what the listener rights are as well. We also need to make sure that they can engage with us, as a board and as a station on issues like fundraising and programming and give input. I really think that it's important for our members to really have that kind of ownership of the station versus having a general manager or people who are in management to make the decisions about the direction that the station is going and what type of programming we want and what type of donors we would like to have. I think that the listeners really need to take ownership of the station and have that information presented to them and have the ability to access and engage in the changes and the decisions that are being made on the station. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Marisol, you have 30 seconds to address this topic.
Yes, as an SEIU member working for LA County as a community health worker, one of the first things that we do is get an orientation to know our rights as union members. Also participating in the LA fridges. We just started doing onboard orientations for folks to volunteer. And give freely of their time to kind of go around what is the expectations and the rights and how to best give their gifts.
Thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 30 seconds as well.
So last time I donated to KPFK, I think I got something back that was really short. It said something like, thank you. It seems like whenever anyone donates, we also in the email, we have to put some links and say, here's some really useful information, and you should follow up on that. Just provide more information when people either they call in, just give them a link and say with additional information, or email them as appropriate and give them some links that would just have the rights, or if they're short enough, put them in the email. Because that's that is pretty critical to understand what your possibilities are as a listener member.
Thank you, Mark. Great. Sorry, Ruth, you have 30 seconds next.
Yes, hi. I was laughing because I'm a 37-year-old, I wish I were 37 years old. I'm a 37-year contributor, and I don't know my rights, and I don't think anybody's ever said them to me. So I agree with Mark that an email should be sent out with, when you're thanking, there should be a place on the web page. And also there can just be a general email blast. They used to do that for different events, and there could be one that went out to the members for that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And Brooke, you have 30 seconds to wrap this up.
I'm a new member. I just signed up. I never heard anything. So there definitely needs to be a clearer message. And it's not even easily found on the website. I went to the website to look for events, to look for things that I heard were coming with my membership. And it's so difficult. It's not easily accessible at all. And it is management's job to get the information from the listeners and be a catalyst for all the listener voices and make the content accessible and to make the rights clear to the members and the listeners. This is a democratic structure.
Thank you, Brooke. All right, that wraps up the debate section. We will now move on to the questions from a list submitted by listener members, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. We will take as many questions as time allows. So the first question is, do you have any ideas on how Pacifica can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences? Kelly, why don't you start? You have 1 minute.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. Do you have any ideas on how Pacifica can generate new listeners and market to younger audiences?
Absolutely. I think that what we need to do is to have that kind of discussion on air. I think that we need to have programming that really goes out into the community and that listens to what is happening in all over Los Angeles, right? Like be really relevant, have local news, have what's going on, out into, the circles of activism that we see that has spawned up left and right with our youth, and to get more people understanding that this is the station for them, that this is where their voices can be heard and broadcast, throughout the state and the nation, and even internationally. And I think that a lot of people don't know that because they're not listening. And when they do tune in, they're not hearing their voices reflected. Simply, they're hearing things that don't relate to them at all. And I think that we need to change that, because when I listened to KPFK back in the day, it was a station for me because it spoke to me. And that's why I wanted to be involved. And that's what we need to go back to.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Marisol, you have 1 minute.
Yes, we need to go back to the roots of the people. I cannot emphasize that enough. That is where the power lies. If we want to bring voices, then we need to have access. We need to have KPFK go out there into the community and have people speak their truth and their experiences of what's going down within their own community. And this is going to bring about that fire that a lot of people have within themselves to create change, to make an impact into the world. And this is what KPFK, this is what brought me to KPFK. And I would love to go back to the way that it was, where we bring the programming and the people, and we create this platform for people to go ahead and participate and speak their voices.
Thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 1 minute.
Well, those are really great responses. I want to say I was really motivated by those. I just want to add, I think we need community workshops and have them where potential listener members are likely to be found. And yeah, have a wider variety of workshops and venues for communicating our message, and also have probably have more call-in type shows and formatting to get some more interactions, and obviously expand social media. I think the station could be doing better job at social media as well.
Great, thank you, Mark. Ruth, you have 1 minute.
Okay. So hopefully, if COVID is ever over, we can start having a presence at community fairs, like there, often are health fairs, book fairs, and various community events. And we should, find out what those are and then table at those events. There may also be grants that can be given for us to find out what, a particular listener demographic wants. We should be reaching out to colleges. There are colleges all over in that, and junior colleges, if we could reach out and find out who's running those radio stations and how to get our name out on those radio stations, and have those people do internships at KPFK, and of course, social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And Brooke, you have 1 minute.
Now, let me just be clear. This is increasing listenership, correct?
Yes, bringing in new members and younger audiences.
Okay, because I love this is like a brainstorming committee that I'm listening to right now. And it's my understanding that the LSB, though, is governance, that the job of the LSB is governance. I do think that we have the content creators and the producers at the station that are professionals. And I just believe that there's an issue with catalyzing the talent that we have and the ideas of our listener community that I'm hearing, and bringing them together. There's just some difficulty there, connecting that. And I do believe that the general manager's job is to do that. And I do believe that we need local news. We absolutely need local news. We need that voice on the station. And that is something that we need to let the general manager know and hold the general manager responsible for making sure these voices are heard. Everything that all of the panelists said, all of those ideas.
Thank you, Brooke. Great. We'll move on to the next listener question. This one is, what will be your involvement in the social, cultural, and political issues of the Leimert Park area and the struggle of the mostly African-American residents there against gentrification? Kelly, if you'd like to speak to this one, you have 1 minute.
Yes, I just would like you to repeat the beginning part of the question one more time.
Sure, it's, maybe we relate this a little bit more to the board's responsibilities in this area, but the listener's question was, what will be your involvement in the social, cultural, and political issues of the Leimert Park area and the struggle of the mostly African-American community there against gentrification?
I think that the pushing and putting and making programming, like in the forefront of the way we prioritize it would be really highlighting the local struggles that we currently have. And then the organizations and people who are directly being affected by things like homelessness, gentrification, et cetera, poverty, all the things that we see happening around us. And we need to really uplift, Black, Indigenous people of color, their voices in the struggle in the community, and put that front and center. So I think our job in the listener board, at least for me, because I'm really interested, in doing programming oversight, is to really be there, for the community and put their voices back out there and support them in those struggles.
Thank you, Kelly. Marisol, you have 1 minute as well.
It's about creating multicultural perspectives and having those voices on the air and creating content that is uplifting and also bringing critical resources that would be of use for all those that are suffering the consequences of gentrification, because it's something that could be conquered and we could be victorious as a community, but we need to stick together, network, again, voice the concerns and find solutions together. And I think the only way of doing that is by creating a platform to bring those voices heard.
Sorry, that was my fault. You have 30 more seconds.
Okay, that like goes over. Yeah, just in a nutshell, create a platform and bring those voices on board. For the world to hear what's going on and problem shoot together and find those solutions as a community.
All right, thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 1 minute.
So issues like that, KPFK is really a unique and critical resource. If we can get the word out and help cultivate participation by these sorts of situations where let's just profit. It's all about profit. And so KPFK can give opinions and rally people in a way that no other media can to help shed light on those things. And also, I think there's a lot of really excellent programming, but there isn't so much about specific actions. We almost need a program or a bulletin board or something that says, this group of people is meeting at this location, maybe you want to show up, or have a show about events that are going on like this, or where there would be opportunities to protest about gentrification in different areas and things like that. So yeah, so I would just say more programming and more messaging about specific activities or creating activities using the broadcast capabilities that we have just to encourage people to dialogue and set up protests or other effective actions.
Thank you very much. Ruth, you have 1 minute.
Okay, this is totally ironic because this morning on Melina Abdullah's program, she had a community organizer on who was talking about Baldwin Hills and that very subject of gentrification. And he actually gave out a website and there's a project. And so I think, reaching out to people like Melina and people who are already in the community and getting ideas from them and networking with them. There's a Esalen bookstore that is very popular in that area, and they may also have ideas about what should be done. So rather than kind of imposing, the station's ideas, we should reach out to people who are already in the community and working on this and get their ideas on how we can help them. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. And Brooke, you have 1 minute.
Local news. We need a local news broadcast. Absolutely. I don't know why we don't have one. I don't know the reason. We need one, and we should demand one as a board. I don't know why it's not happening, but there needs to be a local news broadcast, and the station needs to be able to receive questions, content from the listeners. It needs to go directly to the broadcast. And that's all I have to say on that matter.
Thank you very much, everybody. We will field one more question from the listeners. This one is, what can be done to shorten fund drives and make existing fund drives more interesting? Kelly, we'll start with you again.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have been through those, and they've been excruciatingly painful at times. And I told that once to, when it was back in the day when people had their individual programs were fundraising for themselves. And, you know, they were like, it's hard for us too. And I understand that. So it's fundraising is hard all around. It's asking for money. And it's also being on the radio, on the airwaves, asking for money instead of having programming, right? And then people want the programming and then they leave because they're hearing all of this, you know, requests for money. And I think it was said earlier, I think it was a Ruth or Brooke or someone that said, like, you know, when you're asking for $200, you know, $300 for a specific item, or $1,000 to go and, you know, fly to New York, et cetera, it's a very high end. And the majority of the people that are listening, you know, that are looking for an alternative radio station that actually is a voice of the people are not going to have those kind of resources. And I think we need to think about fundraising out of the box and to do, you know, more listener drive, like membership drive, but also to have like, I think other folks had mentioned it here, like be out in the community, you know, be at the events, have, you know, take memberships on the spot, you know, promote with the Pacifica Archives, you know.
Thank you. Marisol, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, in regards to creating more funding, I think revamping the website, you know, whatever content is on air should be online, and, you know, creating YouTube videos, creating funnels, you know, just creating a system where it's throughout the whole year, anybody gets inspired, motivated, gets touched by what it is that we're presenting. They could always go online, send a text. Again, this is going to create commitment from the station and from staff. So we want to make sure that we are supporting them, that they are compensated, you know, to the point where there's that commitment to make sure that we are creating these systems in place and we are consistent for people to give and receive. And this is what I have to say, because it's throughout the year. It's not just a fund drive, one moment situation. This should be throughout the airwaves, and again online. They need to coincide. If you see what we have put out in the air, it does. Okay.
Thank you. Mark, you have 1 minute.
Well, so bit of a chicken and egg situation, but improved programming. So if there's 70% of the programs only has a small listener base, we need to come up with a way of updating them or getting new programming, and they'll attract listeners. And at the same time, you know, maybe we could learn some lessons from national political campaigns that have been successful, or at least raised a lot of money. Like Bernie Sanders was very successful by asking over time for a whole bunch of small amounts of money instead of you know, one-time donation, but maybe more continuous emails and social media messaging to just, you know, send in $10 or send in $5, and then put a particular item associated with that, some aspect of the station that is relevant at that point in time. We need you know, $5 to sponsor a workshop on topic X or something like that, and just have a continuous stream of asks out there, both by email and by various other social media outlets.
Thank you, Mark. Ruth, you have 1 minute.
Let me see. Okay. Well, one thing, and I guess we're coming up to speed on this now, but there are places that give grants. Obviously, CPB funding is something that we need. There's a progressive fund called the Commonwealth Fund. We should, you know, try to find out ways for organizations that are non-commercial that support independent radio like we do. I don't know whether a KPFK store would be viable, but certainly Black Lives Matter and the Julian Assange defense has merchandise, and they're not charging $60 for a t-shirt. They're charging $25 and the $15 for a mask. So and that's a way to advertise the station. The other thing is, quite honestly, the finances have been crazy, and KPFK is hemorrhaging money, and we really need to be able to drill down on where that's going. And that's a whole other topic, but we need a lot more, sunshine on what's going on with the finances. We have not had adequate reports.
Thank you very much. And Brooke, you have 1 minute.
Ruth did mention that CPB funding, which I can't believe when I heard the station lost that funding. To regain that's essential. The oversight that the LSB has over the funding at the station and the finances is of utmost importance in this situation. I'm a huge advocate for events through strategic partnerships. I do think that the programming is KPFK. It's such a wealth with the programming that's being produced right now. I think someone told me that this is a station where we have the most original programming in the country. So the content creators are constantly creating their own programming all the time. It's amazing. We need greater listenership. The signal can be even greater, which is the greatest signal out here, out west, could be made even greater to get a greater listenership. So it's really a matter of making sure that the management is aware of the goals of the national board and the local board.
Thank you very much. So thank you, everybody. That brings us to the end of the debate questions. We will now move into the closing statements. So each candidate will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. Marisol, why don't we start with you?
Okay, I want to say that KPFK opened up my mind in a very critical time in my life. Freshly out of college, it got me active. And that is the seed that my community to this day benefits from. And this is what KPFK stands for me. And I want this to be the norm out nationwide. This, again, is going to take teamwork. It's going to take seeing the value that each and every one of us bring to the table. And the listeners themselves are the gold. They are the ones that make us or break us. And if we put them at the forefront, we bring their voices. And for them to be the mission of KPFK is what creates for the people, by the people radio station. And this is what will bring a array of activities that could really benefit the nation, really benefit our communities, our homes, and ourselves as individuals in this ever-evolving human existence. I mean, to bring it to that point of we could do it. We have the power within us.
Thank you, Marisol. Mark, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
So I think we have to really seriously think about why it is that Trump can get $100 million in a year for just hating and bringing out the worst in people. And the right-wing radio shows, it's like about 50% or 70% of them seem to be just commercials, and yet they thrive. It's like, why is this? So one of the things we need to do, so that's just something to think about. I just want to put that out there. What's going on there? Why is that? The other thing is we need to overcome our own internal divisions, and this recent election with the bylaws is extremely problematic. And what I am going to do in the next couple of days, no one really understands. I think the desire to change the bylaws, we got 6,000 votes for that and 5,000 votes to keep it the same, but no one ever really understood that. I mean, I think the listener base had a hard time understanding that. And what I'm going to personally do is I'm going to get elevator pitches from all three of the factions, and at my own expense, I'm going to send out emails to all the listeners and with those elevator pitches, so they actually understand what happened there. And we need to get beyond that. We can't alienate half of our existing listener community. And I feel really passionate about that. So,
thank you, Mark. Ruth, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Okay, thanks. So to me, there are three major areas that are critical to bringing the House back in order. One of them concerns finances. We've been getting extremely opaque reports. And I do think that whatever, we can consult with the national lawyer, but we need to have more input into what constitutes good personnel, what constitutes good financial reporting. We've been hemorrhaging at KPFK, and I have my own ideas on how that has happened, but I think that needs a lot of light shed on it. In terms of programming outreach, I already mentioned about college and hopefully getting an evaluation of our listenership and area. I know that Nielsen ratings are very expensive, but maybe we could get grants to find out more. I also do not understand about blocking radio signals that apparently happens in Ventura and down in San Diego. But we need to look into that and make sure that that is cleared up. Something about repeater stations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So Brooke, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
I'm really honored to be here and just to be participating in this process. I can't believe that I get to be here and be considered as a candidate for the KPFK LSB. The Pacifica network is in itself iconic. The Pacifica archives, unbelievable. And the current programming, also amazing. And there needs to be a huge public relations overhaul of the brand of KPFK. I do believe the staff wants change. People on the board want change. They need to work together. There needs to be a new sense of commonality to overcome the conflict that currently exists. So I believe strongly that everyone is here because they love KPFK and they support KPFK, and that's why I'm here. And I will do everything I can to preserve the station.
Thank you, Brooke. And Kelly, since you came in after we were already rolling with the first question, okay.
Right. That's totally fine. Thank you. So again, I'm Kelly Flores, and I'm running for LSB for the first time, along with the Grassroots Radio Coalition, Community Coalition. And I want to help get KPFK give back to the community that it serves and really promote programming that reflects the voices of people, especially communities of color in the struggle. I want to promote culturally relevant and responsive liberatory and global perspectives that address the issues our communities currently face. So we definitely need better education and more creative space on air to bring listeners back and to keep us engaged and connected. And this is what public radio is for, one that's truly run by the people and for the people, and that brings in the most marginalized and oppressed in our communities, and it uplifts their voices and the beautiful music, poetry, and art being created. So KPFK should really be the station that holds a space that brings us together. And I just want to say that I am hearing everybody's voices, and it's amazing to hear that we're all kind of really know that we need to upgrade our game and really reach out to youth and be more present on social media, find more creative outlets. And I believe that that is one of the goals, and also to, revamp the ways that we collect our funds. We need to do better at fundraising in general, and we need to bring our listeners back to the radio station. So that's what I'd like to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for listening to KPFK's debate series for the 2021 Local Board Delegate Elections. My name is Steve Zeugner again, Local Station Board Supervisor, Election Supervisor, and moderator for the program, and we were joined by Kelly Flores, Marisol Cruz, Mark Berlin, Ruth Strauss, and Brooke King. Visit elections.pacifica.org for all questions and to file a ballot request form. And make sure to cast your ballot before 11:59 p.m. EST on October 15th. It's a 2-month ballot period, 2021. Thank you.